You can become the person that you want to be. It's not just some fantasy. It's not something that, it's like you just wish for. You can actually actively do this. Change the person you want to be, which will change your entire world. All right, so I want to welcome you to the very first episode of the Break the Locks podcast. This is a podcast that's dedicated to helping you break the locks that's holding you back from reaching your peak potential. I'm Jay Kitamura, and in this episode, we are going to talk about your subconscious mind. Now, there's been a lot of talk about your subconscious recently, mostly because I think people are starting to become aware of how important the subconscious mind is in their lives. And everybody seems to realize that your subconscious helps with like things like your heart beating, your breathing, things that you don't necessarily think about with your conscious mind, but needs to be done for your survival. That's usually what they associate the subconscious with. But what a lot of people don't realize is that your subconscious actually affects more than that, a lot more. Scientists have shown that it's about 95% of your cognitive usage. That's a lot. And it also affects your decision making. Now, I know what you may be saying. You may be saying, "Hey, I have free will. I make my own decisions." But I want you to think about decision making as a process. How do people make decisions? Typically, it's done by foreseeing the outcome. So if I have a choice between two things, like say for example, I'm going to eat some ice cream and I'm choosing between vanilla and chocolate. It's just to make things simple. I'm going to kind of visualize or just imagine how it would taste if I ate vanilla or chocolate. And then I would kind of predict how that's going to make me feel. And in my mind, I actually am experiencing that feeling. So I say, okay, like I think today I'm craving chocolate more than vanilla. But the key word in this is feel. So what makes you feel good? That's the question. And what that is actually chemical reactions and chemical releases in your body. Things like serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, things like that. So you have to think about what actually dictates how much and when those chemicals are secreted. And that's your subconscious mind, your subconscious programming. It's built into your DNA and built into how your self is programmed to function throughout the day. So now that we understand this, that when you base things upon feeling, it's based upon a lot of your programming, then you start to realize that all the decisions you make, whether it's which job you're going to take in life, if you're going to do that extra rep at the gym, whatever that may be, it's all based on feeling, which is based on programming. If it wasn't based on programming, then, I can force myself to like vanilla instead of chocolate. If I could easily tell myself, no, we're having vanilla today, it would make divorces probably not happen. It'll probably make people love their jobs a lot more. But the fact is, that's just not the case. We are pre-programmed. And the biggest thing is that people don't really understand this concept. And if they do, they don't really look deep enough into it to find out how they were programmed in the way they were. So the things that will affect your programming and how your entire programming is built, a lot of it stems from your DNA. So it stems from your ancestors. And this is really a survival mechanism, because if we had to reinvent the wheel every single time somebody was born, every generation, we would never progress. The thing is, a lot of it gets stored in our DNA so we can progress. We don't have to figure some of the same things out again. So the way that works is that we have feel-good chemicals that are excreted when it's something that we should be doing. And we have chemicals that give us fight or flight when we should be avoiding something. That's why a lot of animals are innately afraid of snakes. That's why we kind of understand the taste of things that are poison so we don't kill ourselves every time. A lot of these are built into our DNA. So that's one of them. And as much as you probably don't like to admit, you probably are more like your parents than you think. A lot of it has to do with their likes and dislikes, what actually motivates them. A lot of those things you can share with them. And, after we run through some purpose exercises, a lot of times people start to realize it, and it's like a bell that goes off. But that's not the only way that you're pre-programmed. It's also has to do with repetition. So repetition, things that are you constantly do or constantly believe. So rules that are placed on you can make you repeat things. It could be the words that you hear, things that people tell you over and over and over and over again that will start to reprogram you. Extreme experiences. So high levels of pleasure and high levels of pain will definitely rewire your programming. Um, for instance, if you start to dabble into drugs and you get extreme highs, your subconscious tends to gravitate towards that because it experienced that high, and it's very difficult to erase that memory from your programming. And the same with negative experiences. If you have a very traumatic experience, like I remember, you know, getting food poisoned, and when I looked at the thing that I ate, told myself I would never eat it again. And it was probably 10, 15 years that I could even look at it again. But that's pretty common. A lot of people say that they just don't want to eat what made them food poison. But it might not have been even that food. It could have been something they drink, or it could be just because one of the cooks or whatever didn't wash their hands. It could have been a lot of things. But since they associate it with that particular food item, it causes a response that gives them fear and makes them want to avoid it. So that's just another way. And the last way I call the tribe effect, and that's kind of like osmosis with the people around you. So, when you hear the saying that, you are the company you keep, the people that you spend the most time around, that's kind of a accumulation of who you are. In a way, that's true because we are, as a survival mechanism, we tend to learn by feeding off the energy of the people around us. So when there are certain scenarios, we feel that energy and we start to recognize that pattern, and it gets pre-programmed into us. And that's another key word that I want you to remember is that energy is a huge component. Energy is probably the most important thing that you need to think about as far as your subconscious programming. Because what happens is your subconscious loves to take shortcuts. So it loves, for example, with the drugs, when you're trying to do something that's fulfilling or something like that's part of your purpose, if it doesn't give you as much of a high as drugs did, regardless, if you don't fight it and if you don't change that addiction, it's always going to want to gravitate you to take the shorter cut to the that high. It's basically a shortcut to where it wants to go. But the other way it takes shortcuts is by recognizing patterns, and that's really just because our brain's taken so much information that it has to do that in order to be quick enough to have reactions. So patterns is a big part of it, and one of those patterns is the energy that you feel around certain people, certain situations that tends to become part of your programming. So the way you feel, the way they feel, the way if there's positive or negative energy in certain environments and you repeat that same environment over and over and over again, then it's going to ingrain in your subconscious mind. But here's the thing, your subconscious is so powerful. It's your genius brain. It has the ability to do so much more than you think. It's not just there to help you walk and talk and things like that. It actually can lead you to where you want to go in life. It wants to fulfill your desires. And let me repeat that. It wants to fulfill your desires. So I know you've guys probably heard of like the law of attraction, manifestation, things like that. A lot of that has to do with training your subconscious to seek out certain things. And Hopefully I didn't lose you here, but you need to understand that your subconscious will create your reality. It'll create your entire world. And scientifically, this is a proven fact. And the reason is that again, our brains have to take in so much information. Just think about walking through the park. How many different things, the smells, the sights, the sounds, all the trees, all the everything that you're looking, there's millions of things to take a look at. There's millions. And your brain can only process so much so quickly. So it starts to try to understand patterns. It starts to try to take in with as little information as it can and paint a whole picture in your mind. So your subconscious is essentially grabbing, just for numbers sake, 10-20% of what it sees and filling in the gaps about 80% of it. So how does it fill in those that rest of that 80%? That is the world that you're creating. So I'll tell you a little story. A few years ago, we got robbed, or actually, it was an attempt for a robbery. Luckily, we kind of got a heads up from one of our family friends, and we were able to kind of reinforce the back door where they tried to break in and they couldn't get in. But we got them on camera, and there was like four guys dressed in ski masks with hoodies on. They're armed, they're banging and broke all the glass in the back, and then luckily somebody was home at our house and yelled, and they jumped over the fence. But here's the point with that. For some reason, right after that, everywhere I went, I saw people in hoodies. I never really noticed like if people were wearing a hoodie or not, but I just saw people in hoodies everywhere. I'm sure you probably had that same experience like when you buy a new car. It's like, hey, I'm gonna buy this Toyota, and suddenly, wow, everybody has the same Toyota. There's a ton of Toyotas on the road. You just never really never really saw it before, never really noticed it. The fact is, they were always there, but it's your awareness that was changed. So your subconscious was made to focus on some of these things. In my case, it was because of an extreme experience. It started to focus on these things, and now it has been drawn into my world. So now that you understand that concept, what are you drawing into your world? What, and it's the simple way to look at it, and I know it's kind of cliche, is that if you are you a glasses half empty or a glasses half full type of person, right? Because everybody's scenario is different, and we fill in the gaps based on the energy that we have. If we have negative energy and we are thinking negative thoughts and we're constantly feeding our subconscious with negative thoughts, then everything around us is going to look horrible. Instead of seeing new opportunities and new ability to grow and new chances to experience things in life, we see hurdles, we see obstacle, we see pain, we see fear. And that's really all in your mind. That 80% that your brain is filling in is based on your subconscious. So you need to understand this concept so you are aware of what you're feeding your subconscious and how you are shaping your own life. If that energy that you have is purely negative and everything is negative, then your whole world will become negative and it's a vicious cycle. Now, the flip side, if you feel that positive energy and everything becomes more clear and the things that you're focusing on is based on the place that you want to be, based on where you want to go, your goals, your ambitions, where you want to end up. If that is where you see and it's clear, your subconscious is going to lead you into that direction. A lot of people have problems, focusing on one thing, or they jump from one opportunity to the next, and a lot of it has to do with fear because they're not very clear subconsciously with their programming on where they want to go. Your subconscious wants to protect you. That's its number one goal. It's a survival mechanism. So if you send mixed messages, and if you're telling that your subconscious that I want to go here, but oh, it might be a little scary. It might be a little dangerous. Why is it going to help you to get there? You have to be aware. If you're constantly around people who are feeding you negative energy, say you have this lofty goal and everybody shuts it down, says, "Oh, it's never going to happen," or if you do, all these bad things are going to happen. Money is the root of all evil. If you are surrounded by this talk and you're there long enough for the tribe effect to be around them, getting with osmosis and the repetition of words, if you're constantly in that state, it's going to put a big red X on that destination, and your subconscious will be like, you know what? I don't think that's where we want to go. I don't think it's safe. So you have to make sure the messages that you're sending your mind. You have to be very clear on where you want to go, and you have to understand that you need to send what I call spiritual gratitude, which is the highest form of energy towards that destination. And if you can do that, then your subconscious will help you. It will weed out all the nonsense. It'll weed out everything that's unimportant. And it'll put that destination very clear in your mind and head you there. And it wants to help you. And people who have a clear vision and their subconscious leading them there, I'm sure you've seen this happen before. It starts to attract other people to help you on that endeavor. It's and the opposite is the same effect. If you have a negative connotation, if you're sending negative words or negative associations with where you want to go, then people will flee. You'll be wondering why don't people want to help me with this? This is where I want to go. But the question is, do you ask yourself 100%, is it very clear that there is nothing negative? There's no locks holding you back from where you want to go and the idea of you reaching that destination. If there is, then it makes sense why this is happening. So, just to recap, make sure that you understand the power of your subconscious mind. That's not just here to help us walk and talk, that it's affecting your decision making and affecting the entire world that's around you. It's creating your world. And if you can understand that, then you can start to be more selective of the energy and patterns that you're training your mind with and the messages that you're sending it. Here's a big point as well, language. And I know people who study NLP and a lot of you guys understand this concept, but language is a huge component in our life because energy and patterns work together for our subconscious mind, and words are associated with energy. So if I start cussing at somebody, typically those words are associated with a certain type of energy. Now, saying I love you has a certain type of energy that's connected. And the way our brain interprets everything is with these words and energy, and kind of makes everything make sense in this web. So when you actually use the wrong language, or if you allow the wrong language to enter your sphere of consciousness, then it will affect your subconscious mind because it's sensing those patterns and that energy just from words alone. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words definitely will hurt you. Then you got to remember that words can hurt you. And people will say, well, they're just words. But no, you got to think of it this way. Words, the entire building block of our understanding is based on words. So, for example, if here's a math kind of a metaphor for you, that if I understand that 1 + 1 = 2, now that's going to be the foundation for a lot of things. It's going to be the foundation for multiplication, which then becomes the foundation for division, which then becomes the foundation for fractions, whatever. It goes on and on and on until we're doing, linear algebra, calculus, whatever. It was based on a fundamental, right? Now, if somebody proved that 1 + 1 didn't equal 2, it equals something else, right? Now the entire foundation is broken. Now everything after that comes crumbling down. So in our subconscious, it's the same thing. We have certain beliefs that we have built everything upon, and sometimes changes of these words or the definition of these words in our mind, the different energy that's associated with these words, changes and it crumbles our entire understanding. So, for instance, if I love you was always a positive, wonderful, energy filled word in your life, but suddenly I love you had a negative connotation. Maybe it was in a abusive relationship, or some other similar scenario, that it can damage your entire fabric of understanding of relationships because of that. So you have to be very aware of not only the people you're around, the words that you're, but also the words that you're saying. Um, and just to make things even more difficult for you, um, I want you to be aware of how other people understand these things, these associations, and how your subconscious works, and notice how people are using that to their advantage. Just it's pretty simple to see once you understand it. Just start scrolling on the on the internet, watch TV, watch the news, see advertisements, and you'll see little tricks here and there of them trying to tap into your subconscious mind to have you believe a certain thing. So once you have all this awareness, now you have the power to block that out, and you have the power to control your programming. And here comes the important part, is that you have the ability, and this is amazing. You have the ability to reprogram yourself. Just think of it. You can write your own software. You can become the person that you want to be. It's not just some fantasy. It's not something that, it's like you just wish for. You can actually actively do this. Change the person you want to be, which will change your entire world. It'll change that 80% and guide you to where you want to go. Wherever you want to go, you have the ability to reprogram yourself. But the problem is, most people, they have this goal, they have this lofty ambition, they have a destination they want to go, and they think, oh, I'll watch these YouTube videos, I'll take in all these self help books, and this is the thing. A lot of times, people read all these books and watch these videos, and they get very little out of it. Most of the times, like you'll hear some of those content creators say, like, hey, this information is not going to be worth anything unless you implement it. You need to implement it. But the problem is, a lot of people have the idea to implement it and they do it. So they'll see a little short window of like, oh, wow, this is great. I feel great. These things are working. Everything's awesome. And then suddenly they're back to where they were. And why is that? Because their subconscious programming has not changed. Just think of it in terms of a game, a video game, or a software that somebody's programming this software. It's always going to run the software code. You can always add something on top of it, but if the initial code base has not been altered, then once that's gone, you're back to square one. It's the same thing. You need to reprogram your base in order for you to make any lasting change. And the way you do it is the same way, um, that a lot of times the outside forces are trying to program you. You can actually use those same tactics. So again, the first is awareness. Once you kind of get aware of all this, things start to go into place. Things start fitting the right way because now you're aware. But repetition. A lot of people have a distaste for rules. They don't like rules. And the thing is, it's kind of sad because rules are one of the fastest ways to reprogram yourself. That's self-imposed rules, not rules somebody else is putting on you. Rules that you place on yourself. Some people may say it's boundaries, whatever that may be. Those things, that repetition of having a set of rules for yourself can reprogram you. And you can set whatever those rules are based on the person that you want to become. So repetition and rules, even with words. You've seen these affirmations. People are saying affirmations, and they do work, but you kind of have to understand the concept. Otherwise, people say, like, they feel like they have imposter syndrome, where they look in the mirror and say these affirmations. Like, at some point, you're like, why am I even saying this? It's like, this is pointless. No, it's not pointless if you understand the concept. The concept being that these words hold energy. So you have to be very careful and very selective of what the words are that you are associating yourself with for these affirmations. Once you know that there's a positive connotation with it and you are repeating it, the repetition, you're putting the repetition with yourself. So you're making the word associations with you. For example, when I say ice cream, I know we're talking a lot about ice cream today, but I think sweet and cold, creamy, right? That's just associations because, and it's funny because if you understand like artificial intelligence and how they program that, you'll see it's kind of a neural net, and these words are all tied in with each other. It's relational. So I have a relational um, connection with the with ice cream and cold and sweet and creamy, right? So you need to have that same relation in your subconscious mind to yourself. When you say, "Who is Jay?" I need to have these positive. I need to have determined, hardworking, helpful, whatever these positive words I want for the person I want to become versus, lazy, inconsiderate, whatever the negative would be, right? So if you have some of these negative connotations because you've been hearing it from the outside world, you need to start going internal and creating the person that you want to become. You need to train your subconscious. So you need to start associating those positive words with that, and the repetition will start making connections. And once it sticks, and it's going to take some time, habits at least take, 6 weeks for them to develop. So it's going to take some time, but once it clicks, then your life is going to change. Your subconscious will start leading you in a different direction. If I told myself that, I was I was fitness oriented and wanted to always work out all the time. And I probably need to do that. So maybe I will do that. But if I always thought that and I trained myself, then when I see opportunities to work out or be fit, then my subconscious will lean me that direction and steer me away from the junk and fast food and things like that. It works. Trust me on that. So you can I mean, well, actually, try it. Try it for yourself. That's going to be the best way that you'll understand it. Um, but again, you can always reprogram yourself to the person you want to be, but the repetition is going to be a big one. But the next is also the what I call the tribe effect. That's the people around you. So if you're in a place where everybody has negative energy, so say there's starvation or anything, whatever it may be, and everybody has this negative fear, you're going to have this sense of fear if you stay with them longer. And it's the same with, if you hang out with people that are super high energy but also risk takers, then even if you're not a risk taker, by osmosis, if you spend enough time with them, say a couple months, and you're spending a lot of time with them, I guarantee you your tolerance for risk taking will improve. And that's why there's so many of these mastermind groups with successful people, because the whole idea is hopefully if we rub enough elbows, you're gonna rub off on me. But you have to be very, very selective on these people. These people need to have the energy that you want. If you feel the negative energy, and unfortunately we can't, disown family and disown, so I understand if they're somebody close to you, you need to understand that you need to limit that. You need to set some boundaries, set some rules to make sure that you're getting more positive energy than negative. So you're not accidentally reprogrammed into that type of world. I mean, the better thing would be to try to uplift them, right? To try to get them in a group that you have created that can lead you into the right direction. So those are the best kind of ways that you can easily program yourself into somebody else, into the person that you want to become, rather than the person that you are today. You can live as the person you want to become and become that person. And in turn, it'll take you to where you want to go. So I hope this information was helpful. We could get a lot more into it. And what I really encourage you guys to do is check out this free webinar that I put together. 75 minutes, so it's a good investment of your time, but I guarantee it'll be worth it. It's about unlocking yourself and getting more in depth into this topic. You could go to this link, breakthelocks.com/J Kitamura. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later.